My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state.
Just so that you could see what you're looking at. This is Economy N2301 South Euclid. That's called relevant positioning, flying right over my head. The entity maintains the same amplified plane activity as though they're taking off. They're doing so over the hotel. This is the very heavily documented Economy N. That is 60 freeway. That's called patrolling. The people of the state are monitoring. The entity is maintaining activity at the entrance of the hotel in concert with MOBIL. That's a demon at the adjacent venue. They're monitoring together. These are the people of the state of all races sharing in that pattern of conduct. They're engaged in vagina monitoring, knowing who I am, sharing in the pattern of conduct with the state. This is P.O.C. It is currently 10:11 a.m. where the Ontario International Airport is engaged in what is gang stalking an American citizen that they are keeping under surveillance and furtherance of murder, and they do that with the people of the state. What the people of the state are doing on the property of any venue such as the Economy in that venue is engaging in it, and that venue is going to be prosecuted. This venue already committed kidnapping with the city of Ontario on September 25th, 2020. The stalkers who are the Ontario Police Department. This is P.O.C. The entity knows exactly who I am, knows where I was located, and is stalking with commercial planes. When the government is stalking in this manner, the people of the state are. You're under surveillance, and this is the entity that's going to be prosecuted. Jason Fields and Tracy Banks are going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. Here are the mentally ill stalking with the mentally ill together. This is the entity that is, again, mentally ill, and don't pay attention. That third party that's walking, they're stalking. That's concerted conduct, crossing path, doing so in the engineer light, while a demon is maintaining flashing light. Juan Pollo at 615 South Euclid Avenue is gang stalking the establishment and everybody there. And the entity's engaging in this, stalking in the path with light. These are stalkers. This is the entity that conspires murder together as well. None of them are strangers. None of them are private citizens. They're all state actors. And that's the government that has no takeoffs that are occurring at what is Euclid Avenue and Nevada Street. That's also audible activity. You can't hear the train. It's not going to be at that volume. You're not going to hear it at all. That's why the entity engaged in psychopathic pacing. And those are the demons that are acting like they're taking off. Remember, at the Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue. Okay, that's P.O.C. I documented that Acura. I documented these are Latino males engaging in what is the pattern of conduct. The entity that's engaging in the pattern of conduct, if these are immigrants, understand that they represent the true sentiments of this country, of American citizens that have a right to not be murdered and tracked down and stalked. And they go out of their way to communicate a threat, because that's what it is. It's conspicuous stalking with the government that placed that threat in my path and flies right over my head, communicating that threat while the fake moon's right over my head. This is the P.O.C. And these are the businesses. This is the population. And that's the government using commercial planes. And pay attention to what I publish on X, because the Ontario International Airport is being shut down. They are indeed a threat to national security. They are maniacal psychopaths who engage in murdering people. And this is all letting you know that the Ontario police are stalkers. Okay, this is the pattern of conduct. And this is the entity that's been stalking at the OVITT Family Community Library. And what are all they do? They're stalking. And they spend millions of dollars on stalking. This is relevant to what the United States is doing with the rest of the world. This is an international system of organized crime, and it's relevant to what you are understanding under all circumstances is criminal surveillance. This is P.O.C. It is, by the way, let me get where the entity is stalking by plane. You're going to pay attention to the Google Drive, the images that I just took, and then the entity that's following, hovering over my head. That threat is going to be played in a courtroom. It's going to be a cinematic production regarding a prosecution as well. This is ARCO that's stalking while a demon is placing their vehicle strategically in the path. They're an engineer light. This is how you know that they're stalking and they're engaging in what is the ongoing choreographed placement of the elements of monitoring. This is P.O.C. This is mental illness. These are the demon possessed. And it is currently 6:31 p.m. All right, license 7EHK466. This is P.O.C. Alrighty. Stalking with that same venue by plane, license 8TPP715, 9PXJ271, likely an employee. 10515 Mary 1, stalking in the path inside of the parking lot of the 7-Eleven, routinely engaged in harassment, and they are stalking with the government that went out of its way to fly over my head to communicate a direct threat to my life, while I am subject to the pattern of conduct conspiring my murder still to date. 20029 Frank 3, license plate, Pronto Coin Laundry and checks and cashed. They're gang stalking inside of the laundry room, using the laundry room as a means of criminal presence, and everybody's studying their devices while they're monitoring a violation of Title 18. AWUE271, and they communicate that threat together. I just want to be clear. 7-Eleven at what is 731 South Euclid Avenue? Yes, 731 South Euclid Avenue, sharing in that threat with the people of the state who are not engaging in anything regarding retaliation. They're suicidal serial killers who are going to be put in federal prison, deported, and removed from children. But in their sick minds, they are telling themselves that they're engaged in some sort of retaliation, and you're going to prosecute for that. License 8MZT953, 8JXZ316, 8U80045, 20699J3, 9MRE918. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shadows. These are demons. License 31626U2, sexual assault and battery. a homosexual predator, license EJ71R69 with the paper plate. She's confident when she's wearing that paper plate on that vehicle. That's the pattern of conduct, and the feds are watching this impunity by population that has acted with the Ontario police who are being disbanded. Mike LORENZ is going to prison. License 26921 Nancy 3. License plate. Sammy's Wheels and Tires, they're all over here in the hood, gang stalking, while they know that I'm coming through documenting the pattern of conduct as they're subject to it, that documentation, and they're also engaging what is watching my evidence on the internet, stalking me by helicopters and planes with the government, sitting around like psychopaths, masturbating, lying in wait, molesting with impossible light. This is the criminal conduct of the demon-possessed who are monitoring. 33006 Apple 4, P.O.C. All right, this is the entity that's gang stalking off of what is Euclid Avenue at the 7-Eleven and the Pronto Coin Laundry / checks cashed. Okay, I just want to be clear. Not every ghetto is filled with demons like they are here in Ontario. This is both a ghetto and a demon-possessed, a demon-filled one, and that's why it's dangerous. California Street and Euclid Avenue. Okay, because the economic status of any neighborhood is not the measure with which you are finding where you are unsafe. That's what the demon-possessed wants you to believe. These demons are engaged in the pattern of conduct in the suburbs of San Diego, where they have equally a fake son over me, engaged in what is masturbation and group sex, all manner of sex trafficking, vagina monitoring, and the ongoing criminal pattern of conduct, obsessing over me and stalking me, while you should be at home cleaning your mansion. But they're not. They're gang stalking me. This is P.O.C. They are not different from the ghetto over here in Ontario, stalking me in their little bootleg vehicles that they can't even afford. 6 ECE056, while they're collecting government checks and taking time out to stalk me. 9 UXA 888, 9 MSB 598, and they will not be getting any more government assistance, and they will be getting deported. They will be losing custody of their children. They're going to federal prison. They're going to be prosecuted and identified nationwide with regard to being a terrorist, and they will be associated with terrorists regarding what are red flags as well. All right, this is P.O.C. This is Jim's Titan Burgers, the 7-Eleven, the Juan Pollo. This is the entity over here in the ghetto. Okay, and the ghetto is a threat to your life and safety, where it's a bunch of demons living there. And don't you forget, it's not based on their money, how much money they make. These are psychopaths living in the ghetto, gang stalking you further into murder. And they can't afford it. They can't afford it monetarily, and they can't afford it with regard to that prosecution that's coming. That's P.O.C. It is currently, where these brokies are over here gang stalking, at 6:37 p.m. All right, I'm going to show you, here's a mental illness. There's the fake moon over my head, moving as I move. And there is a whole airport that is stalking one person. All right, the airport is again located at 2500. That's not coincidental presence or ignorance. That's presence in the path, group stalking with the government that is following from place to place the definition of stalking, and doing so in the mentally ill and deranged, and this is demonic, method of using planes. This is aerial surveillance with regard to prosecuting under Title 18. It is audible activity, relevant positioning, and the entity is maintaining light activity. The entity is also engaging in it while they're maintaining the ongoing stage, the choreographed placement, i.e. stalking the path. Everybody at Sammy's Liquor, I just took a picture of all of the co-conspirators of murder stalking with light in that parking lot. The engineered light that you see moving across their the brick wall on the property, that's not headlights. These are demons stalking with the government that's going out of its way. I just want to be clear. The entity is unhinged. These are demons who commit murder, and they are easily enraged when you are able to discern the fact that they're demons, number one. Number two, that they're stalking, what they're doing, in other words. That's the government, as you're going to analyze their demonic disorders with regard to posing an unlawful threat to your life, the impermissible threat as it is referred to under laws that I will prosecute this government with, and existing laws such as Title 18. The entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct. I want you to see all that engineer light. It's not caused from headlights, okay? It's the same thing while I'm at the bus stop. Your headlights in either lane are not causing anything swimming over here with regard to lights. These are demons, and so is the one that's using the commercial planes. Every airline is a gang stalker, meaning a domestic terrorist. That's a synonym for it. And they're engaged in demonic behavior, and it's relevant to what our companies and governments and a population that share in millions of dollars on the head of American citizens that they target together while surveillance is underway in this country and you don't even know it. The prosecution of the state of California, the prosecution of the U.S. government is letting everybody know that we don't actually have privacy. American citizens are keeping you under surveillance, and so is the government. So the Constitution, your privacy, these are all illusions. And being gang stalked is the ongoing direct evidence of that for you to witness. And this is also letting you know that they're demons. This is demon possession. The entity is stalking while I am walking south on Euclid Avenue. That's what the demons are doing at JUAN POLLO. Not a coincidence. That's the pattern of conduct. Okay, they're doing that while the entity has what's over my head? The fake moon. This is what's going on during the day. UPS, FedEx, City of Ontario, demons that are engaging in flashing of light in that engineered environment. This is the demonic feature with regard to also what's monitoring on your devices. The entity is engaging what is openly conspiring the murder of somebody that they are conspicuously stalking. You're going to be prosecuted for it, period. This is P.O.C. It's going on the drive. The entity is stalking from 615 Euclid Avenue as I continuously walk south in the engineered light, maintaining, facilitating light activity, while hundreds and hundreds of people that goes to thousands, that comes to millions, are together engaged in what is conspiring my murder, stalking me obsessively. And now the demons are enraged. They're enraged. Character is proven through the ongoing obvious stalking. This is what the entity does, and this is what the entity is doing when they're adopting children, stealing children, and then taking them to other parts of the world where they are quote unquote adopted. They steal their wealth, they sex traffic them, they rape them. In the same way that they're gang stalking with impunity, they have sex with children and they steal from them. I am an adult that is exposing what this government has been doing, and this is with regard to what is stealing money. Tracy Banks and Jason Fields are going to prison. In the same disregard for my life and well-being, this ongoing enrage, this ongoing overt stalking and threatening. This is what Tracy Banks is actually like. This is what her actual purpose is, and it's the same with her husband, Jason Isaac Fields, who are both going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. License for UCF 403, just to get one on the record, targeting as an entity, doing so while you're crossing path as the government, doing so, again, as immigrants, doing so as those who are quote-unquote parents, and no, they will not be. This is the pattern of conduct. It is currently 6:57 p.m. I want to see the location where I'm at. This is an apartment complex I've documented as a matter of history. 2022. This is Euclid Avenue, and the entity, like Delta Airlines, flying over the top of my head, stalking as I walk up and down Euclid Avenue. And there is no airport. There are no takeoffs that are containing that sort of flight that I'm documenting. This is the P.O.C. Euclid Avenue, homes 1450 P.O.C. Okay. Going to pay attention to, it's not just the fact that I'm documenting obviously direct evidence of an airport stalking. Okay, an airport, which is a government, a population, an entity that is stalking an American citizen. An entity is stalking an American citizen to murder that person. You're not only going to pay attention to that, you're going to pay attention to the ways in which the entity is engaging in what is stalking, meaning they're engaging in the pattern of conduct in ways in which they are repeating the threat that is, again, the entity's impunity. So these co-conspirators of murder, every airline, everyone sitting on the Ontario International Board, everyone sitting on the Ontario executive team like Otif El-Khadi, that's engaging in the so-called CEO. Well, I hope that chief is ready to be prosecuted for what every airline and for what the Ontario International Airport is engaging in with impunity. Because what you're going to pay attention to is the entity that is stalking by flying over my head over the sidewalk at the doctor's office on South Euclid. I documented that before, and that's not a coincidence that they're stalking, first of all, and that they're stalking in that blatant manner at this level of evidence in the specific environment, meaning all of the evidence of the P.O.C., and doing so in an exact manner that they know is already documented, published on the internet, and engaging what is lying in wait conduct to communicate, reiterate that ongoing criminal act again. This is an entity that is psychopathic, and it's also detrimental. You're going to recall these things in civil court when you are going to be prosecuted and liable for damages that are automatically going to exceed what has ever been contemplated under federal law. How you compensate for what are incalculable harms that cannot be quantified, harms that cannot be placed into adequate means to communicate what is going to make the plaintiff whole. When an entity is stalking someone and conspiring their murder through the means of an entire airport, through the means of commercial planes. The entity is engaging in this, and that's what you're going to analyze. It's not just the stalking. Pay attention to the body of evidence. The entity engaging in what is stalking me at the same doctor's office on South Euclid Avenue, where they're from 2500 South Archibald. 2500 South Airport Drive. There's no planes taking off over the OVITT Family Community Library. Neither are they over the South Euclid Avenue intersection at Nevada and Euclid, nor at the doctor's office on South Euclid Avenue, where they go out of their way to fly at a low elevation and then turn when they are over the top of my head to continue flying south along the sidewalk over my head and make a U-turn, focusing on me, targeting me in a manner that I documented before in 2020 at that same doctor's office. There are no coincidences here, and I want to point that out. The same ongoing exerted effort to engage in these criminal acts which are harming their own interests. The murderers are harming themselves in their own interests with regard to their pockets and with regard to time in prison, with regard to prosecution as terrorists. And they're doing so, and that's the level of analysis, that's the level of detail, that's the impermissible threat. And the government is engaging in what is ongoing threatening conduct and doing so with the level of impunity that is diabolical. While the people of the state, all these demons, all these license plates, the entire neighborhood are engaging in what is ongoing terrorism together, while they are already aware of the fact that the government, the world knows what they're doing. And it's also relevant to that plane activity. That's what I want to point out. The entities engaging in that, which is already documented, which they've done time and time again. But I'm prosecuting, and I'm establishing precedent, and the government's going to pay for that. The demons that are going to prison for stalking in commercial planes, these gang stalking pilots that are terrorists, they're going to prison for these things. And that's the level of intention. That's the level of deliberation. Okay? That's not an entity that's engaging with our accidents and plane engines are just, inexplicably and unknowingly detaching from the planes. These are murderers. This is surveillance, and it is targeting. I'm referencing the murder in Kentucky. While they're engaging what is this level of repeating the same deliberate, engineered means of you're lying in wait, waiting till I walk by that same doctor's office to fly over my head on the sidewalk, where there's no planes taking off or landing either in that manner, not at the Stater Brothers parking lot, nor on South Euclid Avenue when I'm walking toward the 60 freeway. That's P.O.C. License 9TUJ003. Just want to point that out, 7:26 p.m. I certainly don't have to make up anything. This is Walgreens, stalking in the path, stalking in this path in the middle of the sidewalk, and this is the entity again. I want you to recall when I am at 12:51 p.m. standing at grocery outlet in the middle of the afternoon, and the entity's keeping the fake sun over me at this grocery outlet, and the Ontario International Airport are flying over me in the parking lot in the same manner while I'm at that parking lot, and the entity flies over, comes around, does a hook, and flies over my head, and then flies over toward the Ontario economy end while they are targeting. Flying over my head again as you're listening to what I documented via podcast and repeating that threat, that's the entity that has blatant disregard. Okay? Do not forget this. First of all, those are demons that hate this country, that have been given a licensure to fly. They're flying in and out of the United States. They're flying across state lines. And these are demons stalking with them, communicating an equal threat while they go out of my way to fly over my head while I'm on the sidewalk. They're not going toward any airport. They're not going toward any destination. Just blatant stalking. And you have Benjamin stalking in the path. Okay? Benjamin's engaged in gang stalking at OVITT Family Community Library, and he's communicating a threat. Just want to be clear. For all of the entity that are stalking in the path, this is psychopathic pacing. And they're all in engineer light. The light that's on the inside of the hotel, it's not sunlight. Their headlights are not causing any lights to cause vacillation of shadows, magnified shadows, multiple shadows. These are all stalkers, and that's the government. They threaten, they murder, they stalk in the same manner with the same disregard. They're not going, that was stalking, blatant stalking by the government that engages in what is, oh, you got that threat, let me threaten you again. The federal government and the world is listening. And this is the Ontario International Airport that's going to be shut down. The airlines are going to be targeted with regard to prosecution. This is P.O.C. And the people of the state, these are the ones that are going to prison. They don't have any shelter. I'm going to prosecute the people of the state. Every kidnapping that they engaged in and facilitated, that's exactly where they're going. They're also going to be diagnosed. This is mental illness and lawlessness combined together. This is P.O.C. Currently, 7:31 p.m. P.O.C. This is psychopathic pacing in the sky space. License plate 00631 Sam 3. License 1656564. That is State Actor Omnitrans. Vehicle 1364. License 86681Z3. That is third party FedEx. License 8 Wendy Henry Kelly 272.
8 George Apple Uncle 102. 9 Robert Nancy Uncle 766. State actor. This is City of Ontario, the Downtown Ontario Improvement Association. They are gang stalking. They are engaged in criminal surveillance. License plate is 70620 Bob 1 is the vehicle that they're utilizing, engaging in that criminal pattern of conduct. License plate 52795 Victor 2. License 5 George David Paul 547. License 8 Kelly Indiana Robert 775. 5 Charlie Wendy 248. 7 Larry Victor Bob 403. 7 Mary Apple Sam 022. License Frank Indiana Wendy Larry 59, that's Florida. 49723 David 2. 8 Larry Apple George 268. 6 Bob Sam Robert 537. License 49505 Robert 2. 75731 Paul 1. 7 Tom Jerry Larry 568. 9 Frank Apple Victor 476. 7 Victor Sam Kelly 478. 9 Uncle Zebra Robert 912. License plate 6 Jerry 69178. License plate 5 Robert Bob David 183. License 82981 Wendy 3. License 6 Nancy 35767. License 73418 Edward 1. 67305 Frank 4. 5 Yolanda Jerry Xavier 582. 7 David 94193. 7 Charlie Henry Nancy 886. 9 Frank Victor Thomas 146. Charlie Henry George 5475, that's Washington. 4 Uncle Charlie Frank 403. 5 Victor Frank Uncle 774. License 96214 Zebra 2. This is Amazon Prime, third party. License 23587 David 4. Operated by a female with long brunette hair. Gang stalking, by the way, captured also on video, criminal facilitation, and the impunity of the entity, which includes the impunity documented even by the third party Amazon Prime. At third-party facilitating venue, Euclid Condo Homes, 1459 South Euclid Avenue in Ontario, California, at 6:59 p.m. on video and in images, and via podcast. License 7 Uncle Indiana Nancy 360. License 8 Wendy Victor Bob 442. 9 Victor Thomas 401. Third-party facilitating venue 1525 South Euclid Avenue in Ontario, California 91762. That would be the people of the state at third-party facilitating venue 1525 South Euclid Avenue, which is not only identifying the crime scene, a criminal facilitating venue for criminal surveillance and furtherance of murder, the address of a domestic terrorist, or domestic terrorists that reside in relevant position where I'm subject to the pattern of conduct. It's identifying the entity, meaning where you're identifying a venue where you're subject to the pattern of conduct. That is where the government is engaging in criminal surveillance, exercising no private activity whatsoever, and enjoying no constitutional protections from criminal surveillance in concert with the people of the state who reside in the specific venue, in the specific environment, and facilitating venues. Either categorized as being a third-party facilitating venue or a state facilitating venue. 1525 South Euclid Avenue is a third-party facilitating venue, and everyone in relevant position to that facilitating venue, that is that entire neighborhood, is simultaneously being documented while I document 1525 South Euclid Avenue, where the government is stalking me as I document it via podcasts and images and on video for the criminal purposes of the city of Ontario, which is the state of California, engaged in the U.S. government's criminal pattern of conduct of gang stalking me in furtherance of murder. That's why there is no shelter, and that's why the specific environment follows and pursues, which is terrorism, meaning I am subject to that same criminal pattern of conduct, and literally identifying the address is a means to prosecute the entity. License plate: 8 Paul Mary Nancy 554, 8 Mary Bob Henry 333, 8 Bob Wendy Zebra 8 Bob Wendy Zebra 167. Gang stalking at facilitating venue, looks like 104 Dianza Circle, Ontario, California 91762. That's again 104, I believe it's 104A, 104B. Perhaps some sort of duplex, a house that's divided amongst two different units. The address is 104 Dianza, Ontario, California 91762, where a third-party gang stalker is engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct at that third-party facilitating venue at the intersection of Euclid Avenue and Dianza, engaged in the criminal conspiracy to commit murder, gang stalking me with the government at that venue in concert with the people of the state, license 8BWZ167, engaging in that criminal pattern of conduct, and doing so as I continue traveling from the OVITT Family Community Library to the 60 freeway end of Ontario, where the entity is maintaining the pattern of conduct at the very heavily documented economy end. License 8WQL746. License 8 Wendy, Indiana Henry 104. License looks like 5 Edward Xavier Uncle 258. 7 Xavier 76704. 49390 Frank 4. 6 Paul 66971. 6 Sam Paul Sam 299. License 89642 Uncle 2. 8 George Tom Mary 563. 7 Frank Nancy Zebra 754. I believe 79450 Xavier 1. License 9 Nancy Frank David 701. At third-party facilitating venue Pepperwood Vias, located at 1951 South Euclid Avenue in Ontario, California 91762. This is an apartment complex, a third-party facilitating venue. Again, that's Pepperwood Vias. License 9 Uncle Sam Mary 511. 6 Nancy Kelly Robert 846. 9 Henry Victor Uncle 969. 5 Jerry Victor Larry 358. 8 Wendy Queen Larry 049. 7 Frank 95870. 9 Robert Indiana Sam 621.
9 Robert George Kelly 951. 8 Victor Mary Charlie 692. 9 Nancy Bob Henry 728. 9 Kelly Henry Robert 699. 8 Apple Kelly Mary 308. 8 Henry Frank Kelly 943. 9 Robert Henry Jerry 264. 50704 Victor 1. 8 David 57860. 6 Yolanda Uncle Victor 593. 7 Thomas George Larry 753. 6 Yolanda Xavier Mary 110. 7 Zebra 0 Nancy 642. Sexual assault and battery. This is a stalker. Focused on committing sexual assault and battery while stalking, which is facilitated, sponsored by, incentivized by the government, stalking me from place to place in the most expensive and mentally deranged and extreme and terrorizing methods, such as with commercial planes, smaller government planes, and helicopters. License 9TLB 105, a Latino male engaging in the criminal bidding of the state in furtherance of murder, doing so at Philadelphia and Euclid Avenue, committing the act of terrorism, sexual assault, and battery committed in furtherance of my murder, while this third party is engaged in gang stalking me, and doing so at what is third party facilitating via U.S. fuel. License 8 Wendy Xavier David 650. License 8 Charlie Nancy Yolanda 151. 7 Kelly Apple Sam 163. 8 Jerry Bob Uncle 420. 7 Edward Henry 7 Edward Henry Mary 198. Substantially similar. It's 7 Edward Henry Kelly 198. 7 Edward Henry Nancy 198. It's a white Toyota Corolla, captured at 7:49 p.m. And this is all December 30th, 2025. License 8 Zebra Queen Uncle 616. 8 Jerry Victor Sam 024. 6 Thomas Xavier David 483. 6 Victor Frank Edward 430. 46715 Frank 2. 9 Wendy Kelly Jerry 776. 5 Thomas Jerry Larry 861. 5 Jerry Tommy Wendy 311. 9 Paul Jerry Sam 404. 9 Larry George Zebra 337. 7 Victor Zebra George 665. 7 Yolanda Indiana Thomas 531. Robert Indiana Charlie Sam David Apple Edward. That's Rick's Day. Robert Indiana Charlie Sam David Apple Edward. License 428 Mary Thomas Wendy. 6 Zebra Wendy Zebra 709. 8 Victor Sam Xavier 848. 6 Mary Xavier Zebra 316. 9 David Mary George 664. 7 Larry Bob Thomas 137. 7 Xavier Henry Zebra 872. 12080 Sam 2, and this is a third-party commercial actor. This is a tow truck utilized to engage in what is stalking with light. And that's terrorism, while the demon-possessed engage in stalking you, and they're also engaging in the mentally ill behavior of stalking you with light. And it's also mentally ill behavior as they are stalking you with what is actually engineered light, while maintaining an illusion of being in the natural environment, for example, or being in your presence and being around you while their headlights, for example, are in use, or some sort of manifestation of light, which is actually engineered light. They're demons that are manifesting right before us, and they're stalking you in that state, which is also terrorism, and it's also mentally ill behavior by this population that is targeting one person, doing so in furtherance of the criminal conspiracy to commit murder, and is all sponsored and shared with the government. The entity is doing this through a commercial means, a company that's going to be prosecuted for that. And this company vehicle, it's a tow truck, license 12080 SAM2, and that's documented at 7:54 p.m. at the grocery outlet Walgreens parking lot off of Euclid Avenue, across from the Driftwood Shopping Plaza at the 60 freeway, adjacent to the Economy Inn, where I'm being targeted in the parking lot, and I'm documenting these demons who are stalking, surrounding, not slowing down in the criminal conduct. That while you document the stalker engages in ongoing criminal activity, doing so with more and more people, doing so with more and more activity creation, speaking to the mental illness that was always there, it was always dormant, and it is made very clear and manifest, and thereby more threatening to an American citizen who was documenting the government that is stalking them and furtherance of murdering them. License plate 40285 Edward 3, license 6 Apple David Charlie 328, license Jerry Edward 9198. That's a Jalisco license plate. And with all of the documentation and in every aspect of the prosecution, the deportation policy is going to apply. So any and everyone with regard to my documentation and with regard to the overall prosecution, ongoing investigation of the U.S. government, American citizens that are engaging in domestic terrorism in the way in which gang stalking is hereby proven, they're going to be subject to deportation. So that is not just when I'm documenting what is implicating potential immigrants. This is under all circumstances, at all times, the case. I just want to make sure I reiterate that. Gang stalkers that are immigrants are being deported. 9TJG232, 40285 Edward 3, 7 Wendy Larry Apple 049, 9 Kelly Charlie Yolanda 116, 65531 Bob 4, 7 Wendy Apple Wendy 571, 89578 George 2, 9 George Thomas David 454, 5 Apple Mary Victor 693, 9 Paul Wendy Mary 420, 6 Larry Jerry Zebra 176, 7 Yolanda Edward Zebra 165, Sam Apple Frank Thomas Yolanda Barry Yolanda. That's supposed to be, I guess, safety boy, safety by. Sam, Apple, Frank, Thomas, Yolanda, Bob, Yolanda. Gang stalking here at Economy Inn. License plate, David Zebra 48, Bob 36 paper. All right, this is P.O.C. The entity, as I captured on video, is maintaining criminal surveillance by the entire city of Ontario. The entity is on video, engaging in that pattern of conduct in concert with the people of the state. Upon my exit of the parking lot, and you're looking at the Ontario International Airport, which maintains no means of reconciling what is the ongoing presence of commercial planes over the roof, over the parking lot, engaging in cartwheels, engaging in any sort of audible activity, engaging in presence under any circumstances, if that airport were not engaged in what are illegitimate, corrupt, criminal operations, which I have exposed upon gang stalking me as an airport and as gang stalking airlines. These airlines and the airport are sharing the pattern of conduct, conspiring my murder, and it shall be what is a matter of justice, not only a civil and criminal prosecution, but the permanent removal of the Ontario International Airport, which is a threat to national security. And that is why the airport is maintaining ongoing criminal presence by flights over this venue, which I documented well before this morning, where the entity is flying over my head as I'm walking through the parking lot, speaking to none of these people are engaged in any lawful conduct. It is obvious criminal surveillance. It is the clear-cut pattern of conduct, and these are the mentally ill that are engaging in that ongoing criminal system in the face of the federal government and in the while the world is witnessing it. And that, and I just want to be clear, aside from being prosecuted, and aside from engaging in serious acts of terrorism in the United States in front of everyone, and there's no mystery in the court case where you're going to be prosecuted under the law, the entity is going to serve in ways in which they have also not contemplated when the whole world knows what you are and what you're doing. And there's also no question there. And so the court of public opinion is even in many ways worse and even more merciless than the court of law, which is going to prosecute you with tangible evidence, which is also inevitable. But this is relevant to, like I stated, this is not ordinary criminal conduct, not only because it is terrorism in the United States, not only because it is the proclamation of enemies of this country as they engage in it, and they continuously engage in it, and they do so with the impunity that you should be paying attention to because it's a threat to you. These are demon-possessed people who are unhinged, and they are unhinged upon being unmasked because Satan, who is a spirit who is using these people who are caught, they are showing how maniacal and how dangerous they are, and this is what they sought to keep concealed. It's very dangerous hiding behind the smiling face of the 22-year-old babysitter. And that's a gang-stalking psychopath. All right, just to give you a picture. So this is, again, getting beyond the illusion. You're going to prosecute with facts, and those facts are never changing, and they're also not going to be slanted or identified or assessed within a vacuum. And no person, regardless of how the gang members are accustomed to operating in reality, no person in no circumstance has any ability or power to change how the facts exist. They are the facts, and you cannot change that. There's no illusion that's going to change that or slant that or make it appear some other way. A fact is a fact, and it remains that, and that is also a fact. You're going to be prosecuted with facts. This is the entity that's engaging in relying upon illusions, and those same illusions are why their mental illness is a matter of public information. Everyone can see it. It's all over social media. It is currently, again, this is documentation regarding what is December 30th, 2025. The entity is maintaining the pattern of conduct as I remain subject to it, as I show on video at the venue of Economy Inn, where there is no mystery about what the entity knows about my presence. You are mentally ill while you're engaging in what is targeting under the guise of being unaware of my presence. That's the same entity that's going to be subject to prosecution for terrorism, targeting American citizens that don't have the P.O.C, and they're subject to this sort of psychopathic and highly malicious criminal conduct. I will remind you about the body of evidence that already exists regarding the pattern of conduct that I already have. For example, the PDF that you can refer to, I will include it in the description of the podcast for today, recalling the egregious criminal conduct of Economy and a third-party facilitating venue that committed kidnapping with the Ontario Police Department, who by the gang stalking, by the people of the state, by the gang stalking of the Ontario International Airport, by the ongoing maintenance of the specific environment, which is not only the fake sun, which is already established here, but it is also the behavioral pattern of the mentally ill, that is the demon-possessed that are gang stalking. Under the fake sun and in the absence of the fake sun, where the same engineered light remains, and where the same demonic behavior, that is the activity creation, pursuant to detailed knowledge that only demons have, monitoring spirits who are engaged in criminal stalking and furtherance of murder, which is gang stalking, and it's going to be prosecuted as terrorism in the United States. I will refer to you to the PDF with regard to the entity that's already surrounded with evidence.